So welcome, everybody. Thanks so much again for your patience. We're so thrilled to have you all here today with us. As we shared in our June bulletin, when you registered, we get a lot of requests, prior to COVID, from a lot of programs interested in observing another, effective program. And of course, we had to we do a lot of those around the country. And I know certainly here in Ohio, and we had to put those on pause. So we thought what we might try and do is actually showcase a program, kind of walking us through what it looked like a typical case might look like, and how each of the various AOT partners touched that case. So we invited our friends from Dona Ana County in New Mexico, it's Las Cruces, to share their program with us. So I am going to turn this over to the program director, Mari Talis, to kind of introduce us to her team and show us what a typical case looks like in their area. So thank you all for doing this for us. We're really excited to hear your presentation.
We're going to keep you on speakerphone.
And I apologize real quick, Mari, just want to let folks know there will be time at the end for Q&A. So Mari and her team will stick around as long as you all have questions. So just wanted to let you know that. Okay. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. I am so thankful that you are with us today, and I appreciate you taking your time to spend with us. My name is Mari Talis, and I'm with Dona Ana County Health and Human Services in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Just to give you a little background, our AOT program was funded through a SAMHSA grant in 2016. We have been able to sustain our program with a little bit of funding from our county, with the support of several treatment facilities in the county. I would like to start off by introducing my amazing team. And when I say work with, I mean work with. We collaborate, we brainstorm, we call, we meet, a lot of contact with each other. We work very closely together, and it does feel like we take care of each other. We take care of each other so we can take care of our AOT participants. Our first person that we're going to be speaking with, and she is going to be listening to us through my phone and talking through my phone. So we're going to deal with it as we go. I've got Honorable Judge Lisa Schultz. She's with the 3rd Judicial District Court. I have with me Wes Smith, who is our housing navigator from Mesilla Valley Community of Hope. I have Claudia Iglesias. She's our AOT case manager with La Clínica de Familia. And our one and only Micah Pearson, our consultant, and he also sits on the board with NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness. I would like to start by saying that a large majority of our participants come into our program voluntarily. And this, I think, has to be attributed to our great team that we work with. Our providers have several opportunities prior to court to talk with, inform, and engage our AOT participants. They do a great job in doing that. We have a participant handbook that we give to each client, and we also show them a video so that they can have an idea of what to expect when they come into court and what to expect from our team. I do have a video that I want to show you today. The first video that I'm going to show you is our legislative video that we put together when we took this up to the legislation for New Mexico. I
was homeless. Okay. I was on the street. I was in and out of the hospital.
I came in the program, I was pretty bad off. I was alcoholic, I wasn't eating, I was living on the streets, didn't have a place to sleep, live, or anything like that.
I was just out there going crazy. I was living with anybody I could, couldn't hold a job, my family was getting affected. I gave all my children up for adoption.
Health outcomes, but we're having to invest a lot of money in both of those systems.
But how can we help this person with such a burden on their plate to become an independent human being.
Assisted outpatient treatment is simply the idea of civil commitment to outpatient care for an individual with severe mental illness who has a history of struggling to engage with treatment on a voluntary basis in the community.
Through AOT, we're reducing the number of times people are in the emergency room or in the hospital, or the number of times they're incarcerated. And we're shifting and spending that money on better care for them, helping them connect to social services. So just by helping someone establish a safe place to live, that costs money. But in return, we're not spending that money on an incarceration or a hospitalization. So it's really a much better investment of taxpayer dollars.
And I think we've had such a terrible failure in our mental health system here that anything that we have that can help people stay so that they're, as I say, flying straight and level, that they can stay out of the hospital, stay out of the jails, anything that we can do to keep that from happening, as well as the benefits to society and for them personally, we need to be supporting them.
I have my own place to live now. I've been 6 months at my one job. I'm going to be stepping up to a chef, stepping up to more responsibilities on the line. And I love my boss, I love my crew, and I love everyone at AOT.
My life is stable, much more stable than it was before. I'm not on the streets, I'm in a temporary housing situation. They're helping me find permanent housing.
I was living in the darkness before I got there. Now I see the light, they help me. And they give me hope, and then it's something you work on, and eventually you get peace, and then eventually you'll find joy, in life, which I've lost before I came into the program.
Just based on the findings that we've seen so far after 3 years of our 4-year program, we can already show that it's having an impact and trending the way other programs in the country have gone.
When the court order expires, we generally allow a person to graduate from court order treatment and continue under voluntary care, and people want to stay in treatment.
I got a court date coming up in September, and I'm volunteering for another 3 months. AOT has helped me be very, very focused and driven. I'm looking at getting maybe early release from probation sometime in the next year. I'm in my last year now, but they've made me confident that I can accomplish anything I need to, and I've got contact with all of my children now, and I'm stable.
They are the only programs that I know of where community individuals who all really care about this population come together in a group, in a team.
Peer support is awesome. They walked more than a mile in your shoes, so they know what to do. They know how you feel, and they can sympathize.
I go to groups, and I got my peers that keep me straight. We talk to each other, help each other. Peer group, peer support. All the staff there, are there to help you sincerely, and they actually do help. So I've been sober for about 4 months right now.
For any lawmaker who is concerned about the quality of life in their community and about the budgets of these public agencies that we're all supporting this program is a no-brainer.
This is working, and it is making a huge difference in people's lives.
It's been wonderful. It has really, really helped my life a lot. I don't know what I'd do without it.
I got a different outlook on life. I got something to look forward to, and before I didn't. And I didn't have any outlook until I got into the program.
That's the video that we shared with our legislators a couple years back. We do have another video. We actually have the participant video that we show all of our clients. And if we can get it figured out, we will show that also today as well. But today we are going to be focusing on our court hearing and how we kind of run our court hearing. And I would like to just take a minute to explain and just discuss the great work goes into our hearings. So much happens before the hearing, and we kind of have figured out a way to get it to where we've streamlined the process. So our process starts, with our clients coming in. We do the initial hearing, we do status hearings. We try and have status hearings every 3 months. And with those status hearings, we have a couple of things. We have a monthly meeting that we do with all of our stakeholders. So if there are any policy issues, any kind of issues that are coming up in our community, we discuss it at those times. For our hearings, we also have our case staffings. This happens about an hour, well, half an hour before our actual hearings. So we can get discussion going about the clients. We have the court reports that our AOT Dr. Claudia has sent out to us the night before, and those court reports are extremely detailed. They are great. They focus on a great number of things. We talk about the court tasks that were given at the last court meeting. We talk about the client's strengths. We talk about concerns that come up. We have recommendations for the court hearing. And then we also, what is fascinating for all of us to look at is the summary of our contacts. So Claudia is able to give us the exact number of face-to-face contacts that were made, group contacts that were made, psychiatric appointments, medication management appointments. And so that's just kind of a great way to be able to see the level of engagement with our clients. So at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Judge Schultz, and we will move on.
Terrific. All right. Afterwards, I will stick around with anyone else from the team who can to take any questions. We really appreciate everyone attending today. We consider it a point of joy to spread the news about AOT and to share sort of a mock hearing with you. As you heard just now, we begin each hearing with the staffing right beforehand. Once a month we'll meet for business for a longer internal hearing and for any particularly problematic clients that we want to actually brainstorm on. So by the time we get to the hearing, we have some feel for it, but now we do an individual update status, sort of a staffing rather, before we bring the client in, whether that's over the phone during COVID or into the courtroom in person. And I do want to send out a special thanks to Ms. Iglesias, Claudia Iglesias, for these extraordinary reports that she does. We designed them as a team so that it gets down to the heart of the issues and has several succinct categories that we all need to know. At any rate, again, I just want to confirm what Marty said about the team. You will hear from each one of the amazing members. I've just mentioned Ms. Iglesias. Then there's Mr. Smith from Community of Hope. He is our housing navigator, without whom I dread to think what would be the fate of our clients. And of course, Mr. Pearson, who is also entirely critical to the team, because he is the only one who can say to the clients, been there, done that, brought home the postcard. So actually say, look, I do suffer with a mental illness. This is what it was like when I hit rock bottom. I've been through what you're going through. And he can address a variety of various issues in a very, very effective manner. And of course, it's a pleasure to note that Mr. Pearson is now on the national board for NAMI, but he is our peer support consultant. There are other members of the team just as vital, and we'll stay afterwards for questions, but that's really sort of confirming Marty said and putting it in the context of the mock hearing you're about to be part of. So the first thing is that in this case, this is a gentleman. We're omitting his name for HIPAA purposes, of course, but it is a real case, and it's a gentleman for whom the psychiatrist in his affidavit for entrance into the AOT program, besides meeting the requirements of the law, he specified a variety of things. He said that the client suffers from unspecified schizophrenia and other psychotic disorders, that he is a risk to himself, that even inpatient, he expresses suicidal and endorses suicidal ideations, that he's also a risk to others, that in fact, after admission, while he was inpatient, he threatened to kill a nurse and had to be put on assault precautions and his door blocked. So very serious, severely mentally ill individual. He had been homeless for 40 years, not months, 40 years. And we did the initial hearing to bring him in. Now, during that hearing, of course, we have the usual AOT order and that we go through, but then I also have my own order that's been designed to elicit any needs that the participant might have. In this case, he had a history of TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, so I ordered a neuropsych evaluation. He did not have a primary care physician, so we got him established for that. He had a shoulder dislocation, so we got him scheduled to see an orthopedic doctor. And of course, he hadn't had dental work, so he needed dental work. All of that and many other details are in my own order. I don't know if you can see that. It's very specific. And when we go through everything and we get to the point of, is this individual going to be admitted into the program, I take a moment. I ask the person if they mind my speaking to them directly, not through their attorney. They will say yes, very gracious. And basically I say, look, if I admit you into the AOT, this is a little bit like winning the lottery. And some people actually want to go to college. If I know that about the individual, I'll put it in terms of it's like winning a scholarship to college. And I explain all the resources that we are going to work to bring together into a support system for that individual. And then I also explain that just like every other area of life, we put into it, we get out of it what we put into it. If you just want to go blow all the money from your winnings, your lottery winnings, that's one course. If you want to blow off the college scholarship, of course, that all goes in one direction. But this is the opportunity to travel down your own healing journey and to make those changes you want to make to become the person you want to be. So I need to know before I admit you in, do you want to join us? And because it requires you taking yourself very seriously and putting yourself number one so that you can focus on your own healing. Do you want to do that? Yes. Do I have your absolute word that, I'm not saying you would do this, but rather than just accepting all the benefits and not doing what you're ordered to do? Do I have your word of honor that you will follow the treatment plan, take your medications, go to therapy, etc.? And I said, I just need to know personally if you're in agreement, and this is what you do. And the person says, yes, this is what I want, I promise you. And that begins throughout their healing journey. It's the beginning of the relationship between the judge and the participant, which is critical. And anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. Now they're admitted into the program, and various things are being dealt with. We have our status conference with them, also, which is every 3 months, but we also have so many emergency hearings. It's probably my own fault, because I say to people, if you want to come and speak to me directly, tell anybody on the team, and we'll arrange it to bring you in. And there are a lot of emergencies that come up, and we always bring people in. So now here we are at this gentleman's hearing, and I give the person an opportunity to speak to their attorney off record without any of us present. And I say that we have a respondent's attorney who has traversed the canyon, the Grand Canyon of change, as you know, as we all started out as lawyers, right? From adversarial, confrontational, this is how truth is found, to genuinely working with the person, even going to the hospital to meet them when they need to, because the person's come to trust them that much. And it's talking to the person about their concerns and the team's concerns. So when I start talking to them, they really have a pretty good idea of things. So I call that attorney now the client whisperer. So when I say that the entire team, each member is critical, I really mean it. So now we bring him in, and his attorney will say, either, like in this case, he has no concerns, although he's very good at dealing with his budgetary issues, and he would like to talk about whether or not to have a rep payee, etc. And then he'll always say, I've asked him whether or not he feels comfortable to speak to you directly. He said he did. Boom. Now it is, and no pun intended, the ball is in my court. So I say to the individual, in this case, this gentleman, I always thank him for appearing, because it is so nice to see them and to have the opportunity, the joy to work with them. And then I say, is there anything you want to share with me? I know your attorney said, just these couple of things, but anything you want to say? And it's amazing how many people say, well, I did want to wish you a good afternoon, Judge. I'll be so touched. I mean, who says that to a judge, right? So then I sort of jump right in, and I always begin by talking about the person's strengths since I have seen them, because I think that kind of encouragement is so critical. Also, if I'm going to ask something very hard of the person, I want them to have a genuine sense of how far they've come, not just how far they could go, but how far they've come, to begin to develop confidence in being able to go all the way. So I do begin with strengths. I am cautious about going overboard, because some people have never heard compliments. and are not just shy, but kind of turned off. So you have to be very sensitive to your clients. But if I know that somebody is fine with a compliment, I'll say something like, you know, there are so many good things to say about you. I don't even know where to begin, but I don't want to embarrass you by telling you all these fabulous things about yourself. You know, is it okay with you if I do that? And people are like, yeah, good. And so then I just say, well, I'll try to embarrass you, not too much, but just the right amount. Person cracks, in this case, the gentleman roared with laughter because he has a great sense of humor. That's why it's very important to know your clients. So I went through his various strengths, which were many. He had actually attended 263 in-person contacts in 8 months, which was like amazing. And for that alone, we gave him a standing ovation. Because if I can't get people to engage in the program, to want to participate, then we have a significant issue and have to figure out another approach. So he actually got a standing ovation for that. And in fact, he did 47 out of 47 of his peer supports. He was keeping up with his medications, his housing after 40 years of homelessness was stable for 8 months, and then later for the full 2 years towards a successful discharge, 2 years of stability. He was just doing a great job in all these areas. He loves to walk and to rock hunt, and I always try to look for something that the person loves to do, that I can speak to them personally about. So I said, well, I am, without putting too much of an emphasis on the word old, I'm an old rock editor myself. And of course, this gentleman with a great sense of humor laughed, and he was like, really? So we talked about that, and I used that as a segue to discuss nature with all of its nurturing and healing properties, and how can the team help them get out and enjoy nature more. So we always try to segue together so that the client continues to identify with me as well as with everyone else on the team. Now, after we do those sorts of yay, wonderful, fabulous, and they're so genuine, we're so proud of our clients, and they know this, that then we talk about the slightly more difficult things, but not as problems. You know, I said to them, for example, I understand that, you know, it makes sense. You were homeless for decades, so now you have friends who want to sort of crash at your place because you're the one person that's not homeless. But I have a very personal pickle, and that is you could lose the housing because your friends don't care about it as much as you do. And you're such a nice guy that you're very taken advantage of. And of course, it makes me upset on your behalf because nice people shouldn't be taken advantage of, but this is what happens. And he and I engaged in a whole discussion about it, and he said, it's just that I hate to be the one to tell them they can't come in the apartment. And I said, oh, I have an idea, sir. What do you think of this? What if the team, like in big Sharpie red letters, creates a sign on the outside of your door that says, you know, except for you and the landlord, No one else can enter your apartment under orders of Judge Schultz. This is a cease and desist order. He said, that would be so good. So we figure out first we have to figure out what is at the heart of causing the problem, because he doesn't want to be homeless again. He likes his apartment. In fact, he learned how to keep it clean and himself clean, and he loves it. But he just couldn't say no to all of his pals. And I understand that. So
Judge Schultz.
What?
Judge Schultz, I'm so sorry to break in. I just wanted to let the audience know that we do see the open-ended questions, and we will try and answer all of those questions at the end. I know that we have about 20 minutes left, so I don't know if we want to have an opportunity to give our other members a chance to just jump in.
Yes, of course, and I will stay. Thank you. All right. So you can see how much we all enjoy our hearings. So after I sort of work out various issues with the individual, in this case, there was an outstanding issue with the rep payee. And so at that point, I say, anybody in the hearing want to join in and add to what we're saying or raise additional things that they want to chat about? This is that opportunity. And so then, Mr. Pearson, do you want to jump in here with what you said to him about the rep payee?
Sure. I'm going to rewind a little bit, because as the judge mentioned at the very beginning of the presentation, that we do a staffing beforehand. And so I know when we put out a primer on how our program works, we talked about our emphasis on peer supports and specifically my involvement as a role within the court. So I actually want to break that out a little bit. So the provider, Claudia, in this case, actually has a team of peer support workers that work directly with the client in general. Separately from that, I serve as the peer support consultant. My job is to actually be part and parcel of the strategic planning team and the treatment team, and provide direction and advice from the perspective of a person with direct lived experience to the rest of the treatment team as well. And so I offer suggestions and input from that. And once we come to some degree of consensus as a treatment team, I sometimes help communicate that to the client themselves from the perspective. But I stress heavily that I live with a representative payee and all the benefits that it provides to me, in the fact that I can go about living my daily life and know the fact that my car payment is getting made, my rent is getting paid, I will have food in my refrigerator, and how this has been such a godsend for me to move forward. But that's just one of the things that we do here as well, from the perspective of the peer support consultant. But very briefly, I also, before the hearings, we'll talk with the rest of the team about approaches that we can take with the client. The strengths-based approach focuses if they have an issue with substance use. My favorite question to ask during staffing is, if we see a client has a history with substance use, I usually ask, what need are they trying to fill? What problem are they trying to solve with their substance use, so that maybe we can address that need and then dial back the substance use. And that has been a really effective approach. So that's the collaboration that happens between me and the provider. But also, I can't stress enough that the most effective thing that was useful for getting this particular client the support they needed was housing. So maybe we should loop Wes in to talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. My name is Wes. I work at the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope. It's a homeless shelter here in Las Cruces, and we serve the population of persons experiencing homelessness. And so typically in a court hearing, I give an update on the status of somebody's housing issues that there may be, that we can reach out to Micah or to Claudia to make sure we pull our resources together. this individual had been experiencing homelessness for 40 years. And he was actually living in the field behind the hospital that we pulled him out, that he was referred from. He was in transitional housing. It's like an emergency housing program that we used to have here in Las Cruces. He was in there for about 8 months. I did an intake with him, and really had to navigate what housing programs might be available to him. But it's not, housing navigation isn't just finding an apartment or finding a place to live. It's tenancy support, you know, teaching somebody how to maintain their housing, maintaining a relationship with your landlord. We work on how to obtain food, communication, transportation, and linking these services with our service provider, and working our way towards stability. Because it's a lot easier to recover whenever you've got a roof over your head. With this individual, we were able to get him set up with permanent supportive housing, and it was a good warm handoff. I met with a landlord that I knew would be able to work with him and understand his needs, and really establish a really good relationship upon the lease signing. And the landlord loves him. He's doing really well. I spoke with him this morning, and he's just doing so great. Yeah.
All right, and Ms. Iglesias, is there anything you would like to share during this hearing about our client? Anything you want to say to our client or share about him?
Yes, Your Honor. Before I jump in, I would like to remind Wes that he is also helping him to get his SSI, and they give this services of a certificate, birth certificate. Can you talk a little bit more about that, Wes, because it's an amazing job that you do there, please.
Right. We did help him. We had to get his birth certificate. And so we pulled that from his home state. We helped him get his social security card, and eventually we were able to get him an ID, which is required for a lot of landlords require an ID. So there's a lot of barriers to housing in that aspect. And then we also have a SOAR representative. SOAR is for persons who are experiencing homelessness or near homelessness, and we can help them apply for Social Security disability. And so that's another service we provide at our facility.
Thank you, Wes. And also you have you help him with the Mano a Mano program that he loves to do, and be there with you. And this patient, when I first met him, I went to do the intake at the hospital, and oh my God, when he told me his story and how he was out of his house when he was like 15 years old and starting using, I thought, oh my God, are we gonna be able to help him? Are we gonna be able to do something after 40 years of homeless? But this is what we do. This is our team, that we always have faith on people. And then I remember his word, it melted my heart, saying, Claudia, this is my last chance. This is my last chance, or I'll die. So it did concern me, because he was there because he had attempted his life. And I was, oh my God, what if we fail? What if we can't help him? And I was very concerned about it. But when we started working, and I mean, it wasn't easy. When he was in the crisis house, he didn't know how to do any kind of chore. We need to teach him everything. He didn't see a PCP for more than 40 years, and no dentist as well. So he lost his teeth, and doing all those things, it took a lot of time, step by step, like baby steps. But you should see him. He's amazing. His housing is super clean. His personal hygiene is amazing. And he never lost his, like the judge said, his humor. He always makes jokes, and he's very funny. He's very sweet, and I don't know. It's something that you need to live, and that he gave us more than we gave him, for sure. But yes, every time that we have a court hearing, we first talk to him, and my job is to give the report and to give him, the team, all the details of his recovery. So I'll mention how much, if he went to his did his PCP, all the court order that was mentioned before. We need to make it happen. We need to help him. We need to help him get there. But he needs to do it, because we're teaching him to be independent. We're teaching him to learn, like Wes told us, well, yeah, we're gonna house you, but we want to teach you how to have a relationship with your landlord. We're gonna teach you how to clean, but we're not gonna do it for you. You need to learn. You need to learn how to survive in a different environment. So we're teaching them where the food banks and where he can get clothing. Because when we get them from the hospital, they don't have clothes, they don't have ID, they don't have nothing. So we have to be able to get him all the stuff. And every 3 months, the judge will see him and see his advance, how well he's doing. So yes, for this patient, after 2 years, that is amazing in 2 years to accomplish so many things. He is more independent. He has his own place now and established, because he has a good relationship with his landlord. He keeps us clean. And also he is ahead of everything. Like he's scheduled his appointment ahead of time and make it. Like he is capable of even going to his appointment by himself. Something that I was very happy that the day before yesterday, he just got his dentures. Because for our patient, going to the dentist is really challenged. So he finished his appointment. So I have a lot of things that I can mention about him. He's been sober for 7 months. He's having his housing for 2 years now. No hospital for 2 years, more than 2 years now. And he's been budgeting everything. He doesn't get still as a cycle, so they're still working with Wes. They needed to appeal the decision, and but he can even budget his general assistant, his food stamps so well. I'm amazing, even though he wants to be his own repay, my God. but he's doing so awesome.
So if I may jump in, we only have 8 minutes left, and there's the one question that is still open that we might want to address. And B, I really want to touch briefly on what NAMI actually provides, because while I serve as the peer support consultant, I'm actually also a representative of the National Alliance on Mental Illness Southern New Mexico affiliate. So one of the things that we do is we provide a community-based peer support group where everybody in the room is a person in recovery. And we actually made a point of prioritizing AOT clients in it, but we also made a point of making sure that we brought in general community members as well, so that AOT clients could interact with folks at different stages of their recovery on a casual basis and get basic coping skill tips and other ways of learning how to manage their condition and their life experience. Also, since I was a person who was directly involved in the strategic planning, we had an opportunity to use that as a forum for if any of the AOT clients had a challenge with their provider or issues with the program, I could talk with them separately and report those issues at the request of the client, respecting any confidences that were given, to the rest of the team, so that we could address those issues on a more macro level as well. And then last but not least, NAMI, of course, has been providing several training programs for the CPSWs. So I know in our little titling, we said that I was a NAMI certified peer support worker. I'm not actually. I'm a state certified and credentialed peer support worker, but NAMI is involved in the process of training peer support workers the skills necessary to get certified at the state level. So these are the different things we have, but we do have an open question that okay.
Hang on. I want to close out the hearing.
Okay, you want to close out the hearing?
Pearson.
Sorry. Yes.
Yes, first, before we open it up to questions. So at this point, I would turn to the client and just say, sir, now that you've heard what Mr. Pearson said about getting rid of all that stress to do with money and getting a rep pay, are you okay with that now? He said, yes, that does sound good. And then I said, and now you know why I said at the beginning of the hearing, I don't even know where to begin. There are so many wonderful things to say about your progress, because you've heard Ms. Iglesias, as a side comment, I'm sure everyone can see her wisdom and compassion and commitment and insight that she brings to every client. I'll say to the client, so you heard all these amazing things that Ms. Iglesias was saying about you. And in fact, you heard, I just am so genuinely touched that you work so well with Mr. Smith and that you now have a great relationship with your landlord. So thank you for working with us to help you on your healing journey. And that would sort of close out the hearing. So now we could open it up for any questions. And as I said, I will stay later to answer questions if anyone wants to do that. Okay.
If I'm looking at two questions that I come up with AOT a lot, and I think maybe we should actually hit on those as much as humanly possible, which is there's the first one is opponents of AOT generally argue that it is a violation of civil rights because of the court oversight and often involuntary nature. Can you speak to how AOT might actually protect civil rights?
I can jump in with that if you all want me to. Absolutely. Our community of severely mentally ill people have historically had little to no voice in the process. And one of the things, for example, that I really do in the courtroom is teach people ownership of the system, that they can come and talk to me about their concerns and they will be heard, and I will help them to the extent that I can. Not that I always agree with them, but they learn that they can participate and that they will be heard. And absolutely, this is supporting their civil rights. And of course, as part of the AOT program, we cannot, nor should we, put people in jail or sanction people in any manner, and we don't. So this is not really submitting people to a traditional court, you know, you do this or here's the stick. Not at all. It really is very, quite a voluntary program. So, and again, we can't force people to get drug abuse to participate in that. We have to talk them into it. So those are some more ventures in being an AOT judge. But I don't know if that helped answer the question. If so, we can go on to the next one. Or Madi, do you want to add?
Yeah, I actually would like Micah to speak to this, because there are many times in court that he says, I wish that I had AOT when I was going through my situations. So, Micah, do you think you can speak to this?
Yeah, I will, and I'll try and be as brief as possible. So I'm from the East Coast, so I speak really quickly, and that might come in handy in this instance. So a couple of different things. First of all, it's important to remember that AOT is actually a civil court order proceeding. So we actually don't have any teeth to lock anybody up for not participating in the program. And that's the core difference between that and the standard protocol that a lot of us persons with serious mental illness actually end up going through when we go through the courts. One of the things I do mention, as Madi said, is when I'm talking to the clients, is that I make a point of making clear, I have a criminal history. And that criminal history is entirely because I lived in the state of Maryland at the time that did not have an AOT program at the time. And I went through the standard protocol. They saw I was a person who had a serious mental health condition. I got arrested on a criminal charge. They made treatment as part of my probation requirement and didn't provide any linkages to services at all. So it was essentially a trap, so that I couldn't find access to services. And then when I didn't find access to services, they said I violated my probation. That is the exact antithesis of how AOT works. Another way that we respect civil rights and civil liberties of the clients is the fact that we introduce them to patient advocacy services that NAMI provides. That's the part of the thing that I was mentioning that they get introduced to in the support group hearings. I mean, in the support groups, not hearings. Wow. But also the fact that I'm introduced to them at the very beginning of the program as a person whose job is to advocate on their rights as a patient, for their rights as a patient. And so NAMI Southern New Mexico has a very special patient advocacy program that's kind of unique to our NAMI, and AOT is actually an excellent linkage to it. So that's a way that we address that in a lot of different at a lot of different levels. So I hope that was fairly succinct.
Great. So I do want to, there's one other question in the chat. It says, I'm interested in knowing what is the length of the program and how many required court appearances are there at what interviews. We typically have our court order for an entire year. We try and keep our clients in for the full year with the possibility of doing extensions for year 2 and 3 and even longer if needed. We try and have status hearings every 3 months and get the client in front of the judge and the team every 3 months. But if needed, we can do it at sooner than 3 months. Also, another chat that says, I wish we could clone you, Judge. Such a wonderful, caring approach. Treating people who have been so traumatized with dignity and compassion is so appreciated. And I would like to just double down on that. This is not the first judge that we've had that in our courts. And it was a very difficult journey for us. And once we did have Judge Schultz, it was and a huge difference for our clients, for our team, and program, really. I think that Judge Schultz is who saved us. Yes. We also have somebody else. For the sake of time, I will reach out to your court and reserve our questions. I am the AOT director for El Paso County. Thank you, Sudan. And I do have data that we can share with our program. I will send our final report to Amy and they can share that with us. Is there anything else that we can answer quickly? We can also stay on a little bit later to show the video that we show our clients.
There's a question from Judge Stormer who was asking about clients that are on probation for criminal charges. And are there any arguments over who controls those who also are in criminal courts?
There are links, sorry.
Go ahead, Judge Schultz. I was going to ask if you could answer that.
Sure. There are some sort of unofficial linkages, that is, we'll talk about it with the client in a court hearing, and if they would like some some sort of support from the AOT team. Generally, somebody will volunteer to be there with them, but we can't say anything where, I mean, for years, I was a judge on the adult felony jury trial division. That's not my division anymore, so none of these cases would come before me. And just as those judges would have no jurisdiction over my cases, vice versa. So I can't really go sticking my nose in them, nor would I, because I don't want to have any portion of the team ever accused of any sort of extrajudicial contact. I will say that the team members are the ones, like Monty said, I saved the team. I would say it's the team. It's all the team. For example, a lot of people on a criminal. And we all discussed it. We talked to him about it. And the prosecutor, who at that time was a state prosecutor, said, Your Honor, you know, I would like to call, because it wasn't in our district, the other prosecutor and just chat with him about, let him know what's going on behind the scenes. And I said, well, of course, I would love that, but I worry for you because you're actually at a higher level than that prosecutor, and I don't want you to get into trouble and commit any ethical violation. It could appear that you're bringing the weight of our position down on a lower status prosecutor. And he said, that is a good point. Now that you've mentioned it, I'll take care of that. And I know exactly how to do it and still get the goal done. Okay, that's the team saving the client. And they do that every time. You know, Mr. Smith will say, yes, I can see I agree, they're about to get thrown out of their housing. Let me have a meeting with the landlord, and a meeting with the client. He's just always navigating things for clients. Everybody in this program is just amazing. So we do unofficially help out, but there is no official avenue, and it is fraught with ethical issues. So hopefully that was of some help.
Do you serve involuntary patients, and how is the program different for those?
I can step in on this quickly. We do take involuntary patients, although our program has had great success in discussion with clients. And so it has never, well, I can't say it has never, but it very rarely is contentious, and very rarely do we have issues with involuntary court orders, but we have had that in the past. We have had, there's no difference in the programmatic, you know, for our clients that are coming up. Micah, did you want to add something?
Yeah, sure. Once in the beginning in the program, we actually had more involuntary clients, mostly because they didn't understand the nature of the program. So one of the things that we did was I would go meet with clients that had an affidavit filed, sometimes at the hospitals themselves that were filing the affidavit, or I would meet them in the community and discuss with them over coffee what the program was and its differences from a standard criminal court system. Again, from the perspective of somebody who went through the super fun standard criminal court system. The benefit of this was that I had a fairly intimate knowledge of the AOT bill because one of the things that I've been fortunate is that the county, when we were actually drafting the legislation, actually called me in at that stage. So I actually got to offer my input at that stage. And so I was able to present all of that to the clients from the very beginning. That's one of the reasons why we've had a lower rate of involuntary clients than a lot of other programs, is that we actually went and explained everything to them from the perspective of somebody who has been through the standard criminal justice poop shoot.
And I will jump in really quickly also just to say, I do have another example of a contentious court hearing that we had at an inpatient facility with a young woman who was very angry and very upset about being entered into this program. It was getting very tense inside the hospital. And our judge actually stopped everyone from talking and said, what can I do for you? And the client immediately says, nobody listens to me, nobody hears me, nobody cares about what happens to me. The judge said, I care and I will listen. Please tell me what you want to tell me. And for about 5 minutes, we were all quiet and we listened to the client and we heard what she had to say. The judge heard what she kept eye contact with her, heard what she had to say. And at the end of it, the client said, thank you. And the judge said, you're welcome. Can we please help you? And will you please come into the program? And the client said, yes. So it's, it's amazing to see it live and, as it happens and how we can go from a tense, contentious hearing, contested hearing to a voluntary hearing.
Yes, and I just want to say I have had the honor of working with the AOT program for, I don't know, a body could tell us 3 or 4 years, but in that time, pretty much everything has been voluntary because the team has just become so collaborative and strong and pulling for each client. I think that's that. And so it's at least from my perspective, it's been a very voluntary kind of program.
Well, I have to thank you all. I'm sure it's clear to everybody in the audience why we selected you all to highlight your program. You guys all bring such passion and compassion to your work, and we just want to thank you so much. This was a beautiful presentation. I think we can maybe wrap up the Q&A.
Welcome to Assisted Outpatient Treatment. My name is Madi Tejas, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about AOT. AOT is a court-ordered program that is going to help you to become an independent person that's living here in the community. We provide all of the services that you need. Services like counseling, housing, communication, even if you need food, we're here to help you.
It involves the intersection between court system and a healthcare system.
You will also be working with Mr. Elliot Mueller. He is your attorney.
When I first meet the client, I will have received a petition for assisted outpatient treatment, and I will go into the hospital from my private law office and meet with the patient and discuss with them the proposed treatment plan.
If you have any questions, if you have any concerns with your treatment plan or with the services that you'd like to receive, please let him know and he can tell the judge. You may have been coming from Memorial Medical Center, and Tanika Sosa Gonzalez is the nurse there.
So the process from the beginning, because we're the inpatient side in the hospital, is that when a patient comes in, they're having an acute crisis. So one of the things that we do is we help them to get stabilized so that they can make that connection with La Clinica.
This program is like one big umbrella that puts you into everything. Your medicines, food, clothing, bus pass, you got it. I was a mess, plain simple mess, digging my own hole without any guidance. And I thought, like, you know what, I need help really bad. So I sought help, and hey, I feel like a brand new person. Yeah.
Life is complicated enough for people who don't have a mental illness. That's what our program does. We have a housing navigator through the Community of Hope who knows every local housing program backwards and forwards.
You will also be working with what's called a peer support worker. They are people that are going to be coming to talk to you about your experience, and they will share their own experience with you.
Well, I've experienced psychosis, I've heard voices, I've had all of the fun, wacky things that can happen with a behavioral health condition. But as soon as I got involved in my treatment out here, I was a completely different person. I was very active in the community. None of what had happened to me would have happened if there was an assisted outpatient treatment program. The whole purpose of assisted outpatient treatment is to decriminalize mental health.
When you get into this program, you will be meeting with a judge. Our judge is Judge Lisa Schultz.
There are communities for whom healing is critical, and rather than bringing judgment upon people and sentencing people, very intelligently, the assisted outpatient program does not have any of that in it.
The treatment plan is the roadmap to wellness, and so it's a guide for all of us as providers to help the patient achieve their goals. The whole idea of AOT is the wraparound. It's like a hospital without walls.
And it is a wonderful program where people do in fact heal.
Fantastic. Well, what a great way to wrap this up. That was beautiful. Yeah, we would love to still get that though and make it available to other communities if that's okay. So we'll get that from you afterwards. So thank you all again. Thanks everybody for sticking with us. I see we still have 42 people on. That's huge. So have a wonderful afternoon, everybody, and we'll see you next month.